Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Again, Jesus left the district of Tyre and went by the way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee, into the district of Decapolis. And the people brought him a deaf man who had a speech impediment, and begged him to lay his hand on him. He took him off by himself, away from the crowd. He put his finger into the man's ears, and spitting, touched his tongue. And then he looked up from heaven and groaned, "Ephphatha," that is, be opened. And immediately the man's ears were opened. His speech impediment was removed, and he spoke plainly. He ordered them not to tell anyone, but the more he ordered them not to, the more they proclaimed it. And they were exceedingly astonished and said to them, "He has done all things well. He makes the deaf hear and the mute speak." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
Just if you're wondering, it really is ice water. I'd like to thank Father Darren and the Claretian Fathers for inviting Food for the Poor to come and to be with you this weekend. Food for the Poor and Sacred Heart Parish have a very long, outstanding relationship together. For those of you who are currently partners with us in ministry, I come to thank you. Thank you for your financial support, which is important, but also to thank you, more importantly, for your interest in serving the people of God, as Jesus has asked us to do. And for those of you who are not currently partners with us in ministry, I come to explain a little bit about what it is that we do, and even more importantly, why we do what we do. The theological motive, the impetus, if you like, that moves us forward as Food for the Poor are Jesus' comments in Matthew 25. "What you do for the least of my brothers and sisters, you do for me." Food for the Poor is an international, interdenominational charity that was started in 1982 to attend to the needs of the poorest of the poor in Latin America and in the Caribbean. In that area of the world alone, there are some 62 million people who live in extreme poverty. And of those 62 million, 54 million live in what American sociologists would call an undernourished condition. But before we move on any further, I'd like to take a moment and talk about what it is that we are trying to accomplish. What are we trying to do? At the very root of our mission is a very personal situation called poverty. Poverty is about people. Poverty is about our brothers and sisters. It's not just a question of cash and money. The issue of poverty is much more complicated than that. Poverty is about lacking the basics of life. So you say, "Father Gary, what then do you consider to be the basics of life?" Well, it's very simple. I see only four: food, education, health, and housing. So when we talk about food, I'm showing a little past 9:15 on a Sunday morning. There will be a question that will be circulating among every one of you somewhere between 3 o'clock this afternoon and 7. Care to hazard a guess as to what that question is? What's for dinner? It's not that complicated. But that very same question is asked in the area that we serve, but it's turned ever so slightly to reflect their cultural reality. So where we say, "What's for dinner?" they ask the very same question, "Is there going to be dinner?" Poverty is about education, and you've heard this before. It's been said that if you give a person a fish, you feed them for that particular day. But if you can teach them how to fish, they can feed themselves and their families for a lifetime. Poverty is also about housing. In Haiti, for example, after the January 2010 earthquake event, there were 1 million people, 1 million, who were left homeless. Poverty is also about health. When you're poor, going to the doctor is not always an option. The only option that they have then is pain and suffering. Food for the Poor is an international, Christian, relief and development organization working primarily in 17 countries in Latin America and in the Caribbean, and now we have a very small presence in Mexico, and we are touching base with some folks in Africa. We work directly with the priests, with the brothers and the sisters, and those that ask for our help. The reason that we work so close is that we have found by experience that the closer that we work with them, we can then guarantee that the goods and services that they have asked for go directly to those that need it. And by the way, when I speak of we, I include Sacred Heart Parish, because we as Food for the Poor cannot do what we do without your support. So since Food for the Poor was here last, we have been busy. So when we talk about food, with you as our partners, the only food that most have received is what you have provided. For example, in our Haitian facilities, we serve some 15,000 meals each and every day, 6 days a week. Last year, when we tallied up all that what we had done, we had distributed over 67 million pounds of food. When we speak of housing, with you as Sacred Heart Parish, have been able to touch the lives of thousands with the homes that we have been able to build together. As you can well imagine, in the area that we serve, the poor often live in dilapidated shacks that are made out of pieces of plastic and cardboard, offering a little protection from the elements, but certainly leaves the young and the elderly at risk. Since our start in 1982, we have been fortunate to be able to build over 84,000 homes for needy families. Last year, we had a bonus year. We were able to build over 7,000 homes. When we speak of health, I'd like to spin a little story for you. It's a story that each and every one of us in this room has had happen or will have happen in their lifetime. It's a toothache. So what happens when you notice that there's something going on in your gums? Well, if you're like me, you go into an absolute state of denial and try and will it away. That lasts for maybe 3 days, and then you say, I give. So you pick up the phone and you make an appointment with the dentist. In my case, the tooth most likely needs to come out. So you go for your appointment. He gives you a shot to take away the pain, pops the tooth, gives you some antibiotics, and sends you on your way home. But what if none of those services were available? There's no phone because there's no electricity. The only option then that the poor have is to pray that the gum would rot rather quickly, the tooth would fall out, and then be strong enough to overcome the ensuing infection. Last year, Food for the Poor was able to send over 600 tractor-trailer load supplies of medicine, just of medicine alone. That, by the way, is in addition to the over 3,000 other tractor-trailer load supplies that we send to our service area. And when it comes to disaster relief, you know that Mother Nature can be very unforgiving. Food for the Poor stands ready to send immediate assistance to those in need. Again, returning to Haiti, we were on the ground before the Haitian event, during the Haitian event, and we have been on the ground ever since. As of October of that particular year, we had exhausted all of the monies that had been earmarked by parishes like you to go specifically to the Haitian people. Virtually every red cent that we took in went directly to the Haitian people. We took nothing for administration. So last year, with your help, in Haiti alone, I've just returned from Haiti, therefore the constant reference, we were able to build over 2,600 homes in Haiti. These, for the most part, had a bathroom attached. That's not always the case. A lot depends on the aquifer, the water that is available in the ground. With your help, we were able to build 169 water wells. Now, I know what you're thinking. Father Gary, come on, it's a well. It's no big deal. It's a hole in the ground. It's wet on the bottom. Like I said, no big deal. You're right, it's no big deal. It's a huge deal, and here's why. January, the event happened that collapsed the water system. March, April of that year, we lost an unnecessary 12,500 souls to cholera. The water system, for what it was worth in Haiti when that collapsed, there was no place to go and get water. The human person probably needs water more importantly than they need food. You know yourself when you've been thirsty, really, really thirsty, that it can drive you crazy. The only water was available in the ditch, and unfortunately, the ditch also held the cholera. Today, now, we have 45 solar-powered water purification systems around the capital of Port-au-Prince. If you'd like a visual of how big these are, because they are substantial units, let's take the altar, add 2 feet on each side of the altar, and then put all of that on top of the altar again. That gives you an idea of the size of these. They're solar-powered, run by the sun. Each unit is capable of cleansing 10,000 gallons of water each and every day. The disadvantage of these is that each unit is worth $30,000, and we have 45 of them in and around the capital of Port-au-Prince. When he came some 2,000 years ago, they called him Rabbi. Rabbi meaning teacher. He spent 3 magnificent years with us, healing our sick, but even more importantly, teaching us a better way of living this particular life. So this morning, I would like to take those teachings of the 3 years that he has given us and literally compress it. Compress it into 5 words and 2 thoughts and 1 promise. And the promise is this, that when your time comes to lay in a pine box before this altar, cold, damp, dead, that you will already be there, and he will be saying to you, "Welcome home, good and faithful servant. You have done exactly as I asked you to do." First thought, 2 words. You've heard this before, nothing radical. Jesus taught us to love God. You say, "Well, Father Gary, isn't that why we come to this beautiful church on a gorgeous Sunday morning? To give praise and thanksgiving to God?" When he came some 2,000 years ago, the rabbis had built up this terrible, awful mystique about who this God was. You are not even worthy to pronounce his name. Read the Psalms. "I am the Lord your God, I created you. Look at the disrespect you're giving me now. I'm going to punish you all." Jesus comes along and said, "Who is this God that you're talking about? Because that's not the God that I know. The God that I know is love. The God that I know is mercy and compassion. The God that I know is even greater than love. If you as a human person can really wrap your human minds around it, he is unconditional love." Do you know what that means? It means that no matter what it is that you do, no matter what, you'll be forgiven. So how do we prove this love of God? Is it enough to come to a beautiful church on Sunday morning on a great day, sing a few hymns, do a few prayers, listen to some inspiring words from the Padres, and say, "I'm done, I'm covered"? You know in the pit of your stomach that there needs to be more than that. And Jesus knew this also. That's why he didn't say just love God. He added a number 2 additional part of the very same sentence. Love God and love your neighbor. It's as simple as that. That's why they hung him on a cross. That's because they couldn't understand and appreciate such a simple, basic message. That message, by the way, is still valid today. Look at the 6 o'clock news. It's probably even more valid today than it was 2,000 years ago. I come asking for your help as a beggar for the same Christ. Would you be so kind, by the way, as to take one of the brochures that have been at the end of the pew if you're at the end of the pew, just pass one or two down. I'd like to talk a little bit about just a couple of things in it. We don't have a lot of time. And turn it to the section where there's some pictures. I draw your attention to the little girl with the toothy smile, with the blue dress and the red roses. The inscription there says, for $43.80, we can feed a hungry child for a year. Before I came to Prescott, I was a pastor of St. Joseph Parish in Waterville, Washington. While there, I had taken 7 of my young people out to McDonald's. I love that store. I shop there frequently. But let's look at the transaction of 7 young people and the cost of the meal. This is not a shot to McDonald's. Like I said, I eat their food frequently. But it shows that we're in a different economy than other people. 7 young people, each meal was $7.50. So let's just say 7 sevens are $49 for easy math. For $50, I fed 7 children for 1 meal. Food for the Poor, for $43.80, can feed each child for a year. It's not a Big Mac. It doesn't come in a box. There's no fries. There's no Playland. It's food. Something that each and every one of them probably hasn't had in a while. Of those 15,000 meals that we serve each and every day, some of them are designed primarily for children. On one of my trips to Haiti, I was at one of these nutrition centers watching the process as it happens. Now, I'm a robust eater. You can see that. I admit that. So I saw this one robust young man, by the way, in the line. They asked him to bring little plastic buckets. We would call them ice cream buckets. And we put the food in that for them. And he was taking just a little bit. Now, projecting myself at his age, I would be diving into that food if it was me. So I called the manageress over and I said, what's going on with this young boy here? She said, oh, Father Gary, the situation in that family is desperate. And that desperation is so typical of the families in Haiti. She said, you're going to find this hard to believe, but it's true. That particular family and many others have divided the family into 2 parts. Days that they eat and days that they don't. Days that they eat and days that they don't. I said, that's awful. If you think that's bad, she said, there are other mothers who will bake cookies for their children, about maybe 5 inches in diameter, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. She said, whereas you in the United States would use flour and sugar and spices and peanuts and chocolate chips and all those things, these mothers don't have those kinds of resources. So they're going to use dirt. I said, dirt? Why on earth would they use dirt? Her answer was completely honest, extremely logical, but also extremely sad and pathetic. She said the mothers are so desperate to give their children something to eat that they bake these cookies out of dirt and hope that it fools the child's brain and the stomach that they're getting something. I draw your attention to the upper left-hand corner where there's the before and the after picture. See the family standing in front of what I frankly just call a collection of debris, plastic, cardboard, tin. I've been in these structures, if you want to call it that. They stink. And the reason that they stink is that they do their cooking on the inside. By the way, there's 2 things that you can't see from that particular picture. On the inside, they don't have wardrobes or closets or drawers or anything like what we have. They will sling a piece of string from one side of their hovel to the other, and they will literally just then throw their clothes over the top. And that is how they stack their clothing. In another part of their dwelling, they will cook their food. The byproduct of cooking with wood is smoke. Notice the other thing that you can't see there is there's no chimney. There's no way to evacuate the smoke. So then the smoke then literally smokes everything that is in their home. Their clothing, their sheets, their mattress, everything reeks of smoke. Please look at the after picture. Can you see the smile on that woman's face? Now she has hope for herself, hope that she can have a decent life for herself. And if you were to ask her directly, she would say, and I have an even greater hope for my children, that they don't have to sleep on the ground and live in that smoke-infested hovel that they had before. I come before you this morning, as I mentioned, to ask for one of three things. The first thing is that I would like to ask for a gift of a home for a needy family. Now, I know what you're thinking. Father Gary, that's a great deal of money. A gift of $3,200. I would agree that it is a great deal of money. I certainly couldn't sit down and write out a check for that. But you want to know the truth? It happens more often than not. You, Sacred Heart Parish, the people of God, are more than generous with us at Food for the Poor. I think that you see a genuineness in what it is that we do. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I draw your attention to what's going on just beside those pictures, and it's called Angels of Hope. I'd like to mention that there is a crisis happening in Haiti again. Not nearly as devastating and as instantaneous as the earthquake in 2010, but equally Haiti is on an island. If you take one half of the island is Haiti, and the other half of the island is the Dominican Republic. This is a short version of what's going on. Many, many, many years ago, the people of the Dominican Republic requested that Haitians come and help and build the Dominican Republic. So many went. I would say that's about 100 years ago. Now, the Dominican Republic is expelling, by their minds legally, but not morally, all of those Haitians that can't prove rather difficult criteria to stay in the country. They are bringing it, just like Europe in the 30s and 40s, they were bringing in trucks, forcing these people onto the trucks, taking them to the border, and then saying, get out. Imagine, you, right now, cannot return home. We have buses waiting outside for you. You need to get on the bus because we're going to truck you to Phoenix and you're going to be gone. That's how desperate the situation is. It's not a problem for the Dominican Republic. They fooled themselves in their own minds that this is legal. The problem then is a crisis just on the other side of the border, where they're literally forcing these people to go to the border. We're expecting hundreds of thousands, so they're going to be creating other immigration camps. The crisis of that is that amongst those are the children and orphans. We now have a list of 900 orphans. An orphan is, by definition, one who does not have a mother, father, or support. So, what I'm asking for is, if you could see in your heart, if the gift of a home is not within your means, I certainly understand. Perhaps a gift of $34 a month to support one of these orphans would be more within your means. That's two. The third thing is, if the $34 is beyond you, and that's okay, then that's what I'm asking for. $10 a month per family. Now, when you look at that, you say, Father Gary, that's not a lot of money. And I'm not going to disagree with you. But if we can look at that in terms of a potential, if everyone in this parish every family were to donate $10 a month, here's how it all would play out. $10 a month times 12 months times 2,000 families. That's roughly the number of people that are here. That's $240,000. Just to give you an example of the potential that is sitting here right now, if you were to divide that 3,200 into the 240,000, you have just built a village of 75 homes. If you take that same number and divide it out in terms of the children, you have fed and will feed somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 in 1 year. That's the potential that is here. As I travel around, there are many questions that are asked. One of them, most frequent, is, Father, can we trust you to do what you say you do as Food for the Poor? I say absolutely. We have 30-plus years of experience of doing exactly what we say we will do. The Better Business Bureau of the United States has rated us number 1. The Chronicle of Philanthropy, the group that looks at all charities, has rated us the number 1 relief charity in the United States. These are really nice honors. They speak to our integrity, but they're not the work. The work is what he has asked us to do. After the last Mass, I was asked, Father, how much administration charges? I said, less than 5%. It's in the brochure. If you can help us today, that would be wonderful. We do not take a second collection. We recognize the needs of Sacred Heart Parish and of Father Darren and all the many things, many wonderful things that are going on here. I will be in the narthex if you can help us today. If not, please take the brochure home with you. Talk it over with your family. Talk it over with your spouse. If a gift of a home is within your means, God bless you. Thank you. Perhaps maybe the $34 to support a child for a year. That's truly wonderful. And if you can't do that, then that. And if that's too much, do that. It's because of you that we have been able to feed thousands of people each and every day. And one of my personal favorites, it's because of you that we have been able to educate these young children. Because it's only through education that they're able to break out of this vicious cycle of poverty that they're trapped in. God bless you all. Thank you.